Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics. First, the highlights. With 4 days to the general elections, PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar in last-minute efforts to capture Rivers State votes. All Progressives Congress APC leadership maintains that CBN governor and his team must obey the Supreme Court judgment on the Naira swap policy. Plus, Yoruba socio-political organisation Afenifere Youths endorsed Labour Party's presidential candidate Peter Obi for president in the 2023 elections. Glad you can join us this day. I'm Millicent Walker in Lagos. It's just about 4 days to the general elections to be conducted in 176,606 polling units across the country and for one of the 18 political parties in this year's poll. In what seems to be last-minute efforts to secure the vote of Rivers State, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, has met with prominent citizens of the state who are party supporters to ensure victory at the forthcoming elections. The party leaders say the meeting is compensation for the state rally, which was aborted for fear of insecurity. The Rivers State governor, who has been bitter with the PDP national leadership, was absent, but the former national chairman of the party, Mr. Uche Secondus, former governor of Rivers State, Celestin Umehia, among other leaders, were present. Elsewhere, the Labour Party's presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, has received a boost with the endorsement by the Afenifere Youth Council. The national president of the youth arm of the Yoruba socio-political organisation says the decision for the endorsement was reached after a wide consultation with Yoruba leaders and youths, and having found Mr. Obi the most credible among the presidential candidates to pilot the affairs of the country. The latest endorsement in Lagos comes about 4 months after the leader of Afenifere, Pa Ayo Adebanjo, announced the group's support for the presidential candidate of the Labour Party.
If you want equity and justice in this country, let the eastern part of this country produce the next president. If Peter Obi don't win the election, there will not be Nigeria. No Peter Obi, no Nigeria, because it is the rights of the eastern part of this country. We've tried Fulani, we've tried the Yorubas. They have failed us. So let the Igbo try it. Igbo have succeeded in various businesses in their own. So let Igbo try it. And we believe among the Igbos, we have Governor, Senator Peter Obi is the only man that we found. He's not a messiah, but he, at 75%, he can still deliver. He can solve the problem of this country. In the last 60 years, Nigeria has not been able to solve one particular project. It takes us so long because it's 147 groups have to take a very critical decision before we come today to endorse Peter Obi as our next candidate, as our next president for in our part of the affair of this country.
Meanwhile, the leadership of the All Progressives Congress had other concerns bordering on the lingering controversy over the central bank's Naira redesign policy, which necessitated an expanded meeting at the instance of the party's national chairman, Senator Abdullahi Adamu. Perhaps that's why members of the party's National Working Committee, as well as APC governors, have called on the Attorney General of the Federation and Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to respect the Supreme Court order on the 500 Naira and 1,000 Naira notes. Senator Adamu was speaking at the party's headquarters in Abuja after a meeting where they called on President Buhari to intervene in resolving issues causing great difficulties to the economy.
It is an emergency meeting of the National Working Committee of the All Progressives Congress and the Progressives Governors Forum. One after the other, the governors elected on the platform of the APC arrived at the national headquarters of the party. The meeting, which is coming less than a week to the Presidential National Assembly elections, commenced at about 3 p.m. with the governors of Plateau, Nasarawa, Niger, Kaduna, Kogi, Yobe, Zamfara, Ekiti, and Jigawa states in attendance, while the deputy governors of Imo and Katsina represented their states. The national chairman of the party highlights the essence of the meeting.
You will recall the recent developments that has necessitated, the need for this invitation. We do not want to sit in judgment of anybody or anybody's, in regard to what is going on today in the country as it affects our great party.
As the meeting progressed behind closed doors, the presidential candidate of the party, Bola Tinubu, arrives at the party headquarters and later takes his leave without speaking to journalists. At the end of the meeting, which lasted about 5 hours, the national chairman of the party reads the resolution of the meeting.
And at the end of the discussion, we have resolved as follows. And this resolution is without prejudice whatsoever to the case that is lying in the Supreme Court at this point in time. This has to do with the issue of currency redesign. We note very seriously that the program and its implementation is causing tremendous difficulties to the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and to the national economy. That we urge the Attorney General of the Federation and the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to respect the Supreme Court's order of interim injunction, which is still persisting. That the meeting is urging His Excellency, Mr. President, to intervene in resolving the issues that are causing these great difficulties to the people and to the economy.
The attendees have given their positions on the matter and hopefully looking forward to a decision that will go their way.
Well, staying with the Naira swap policy, former Minister of Education, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, has expressed strong criticism of the Naira swap policy of the central bank. According to her, rather than focus on fiscal and monetary policy, the federal government is using the Apex Bank to target political criminals it knows. Dr. Ezekwesili made the comments on Channels Television's The 2023 Verdict.
Even just by virtue of what technology is doing for us as a continent, it does make a lot of sense for us to not be loading bags of money all over the place. But when you think of how the operational plan for this policy has been bungled, it just is appalling. And to think that it also happened so close to your elections, it just is a double whammy, as the Americans would say, So what you need to sort of do is figure out, what are we solving for? If we're purely solving for less cash in our society as the medium of exchange, then what we would do is plan properly for the transitioning. What you can see now is that the banks are not ready. Their technology is not upgraded to the point where they can actually respond effectively. So there is a complete system breakdown. That is the principal thing that you think you're solving for. There are very clear pathways to solving it. But guess what's going on? There's a second thing that we seem to be solving for, which has now taken ascendancy over the monetary policy. We are using the central bank to solve the problem of criminality in our politics.
And Professor Akpan Ekpo is an economist, professor of economics and public policy at the University of Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. He joins me now virtually. Professor, thank you for joining me. You've heard Dr. Ezekwesili accusing the federal government of using the CBN to solve a problem of criminality in the politics. What's your take on the policy and the crisis? Professor, this is to get your thoughts on the policy, the Naira swap policy and the crisis, saying a lot of persons have, commented on it. Oh dear, I'm not sure what's happening with Professor. You might want to unmute as well. Well, perhaps we'll try to get a hold of Professor Akpan Ekpo on this. But let's also bring to you what appears to be the agitation and anger over the Naira scarcity. This continues to deepen despite the call for calm by the president. This news says that irate protesters attacked 2 commercial banks in the Shagamu area of Ogun State. Some youth invaded 2 commercial banks and set it ablaze. The incident caused delay for travelers who spent hours on the road before the intervention of security agencies. Police is yet to comment on the incident. Today's protest follows waves of similar incidents that rocked parts of the nation, leading to some fatalities and destruction of property. Meanwhile, the governor of Ogun State, Dapper Abiodun, has called for calm, asking people to embrace peace. We go on a short break. When we return, the Ogun State governor is also asking youths in the state to shun all forms of violence in the build-up to the general elections. You stay with us. Welcome back. We understand that Professor Akpan Ekpo has since joined us. Professor, welcome. This is hoping you can hear me now. Just to quickly get your thoughts on the Naira swap policy, great, and your take on really what's going on with the issue.
Thank you very much for having me. Well, it's rather unfortunate. It's, in my view, really a disaster and highly embarrassing. In the sense that a well-designed design policy was not properly thought through, and so it's bringing a lot of hardship on Nigerians, and there's a lot of confusion, a lot of suffering, and I don't even know why the CBN has to get entangled in this type of politics. They've taken the politics to extreme. We have a judgment by the Supreme Court. The president addressed the country, which in his speech I could decipher that there are some people they are targeting who perhaps want to buy votes. But you don't punish an entire country. You don't punish millions of Nigerians because of a few alleged criminals that your intelligence agencies can apprehend and deal with. And so the timing is very wrong. The implementation is also a problem. So in my view, to be honest, I've lived in this country for decades. I've never seen it so low. And it's very, very worrisome for some of us, including myself.
Professor, in the president's broadcast, which we heard last Thursday, he talked about some of the objectives or goals that the policy is meant to address. And, some people have talked about some of the positives since the policy introduction. Give us a sense of where we are economically, or is it too soon to say what impact this policy has had on the economy?
Let me say that it is too soon in a way, but on the other hand, the benefits are neither here nor there. For example, it's supposed to mop up money supply in order to solve the inflation problem. You're supposed to have a handle on currency management. You're supposed to have a handle on monetary supply, and so on and so forth. In my view, this approach will not solve some of the problems. For example, our inflation is not essentially a demand problem. Our inflation is mainly a cost push problem. It's structural in nature. And so mopping up will not go a long way. And of course, the way things are now, the economy is inactive for weeks, and the impact will be that you have in quote a dead economy. So definitely you are going to have a deflation. And this inflation does not mean that the economy will do well. Our inflation has a lot of factors. The distortion between the exchange rate at the official price and the street rate, that distortion have a pass-through on prices. The insecurity, farmers can't go to the farm. All of these things are more important to me. So a good policy, but the way it is implemented, you give people enough notice before you redesign your currency or you even print new designs. Especially in a system where 2/3 of the economy is virtually informal sector, what the World Bank calls underground economy. So I think the benefits, in my view, if any, will very, 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 very marginal. I don't see the benefits coming up in the short and medium, even in the long term. There are other policies that we put in place for it to have a better advantage of this type of policy. You know, timing can create problems for even perceived benefits, and people's agitation and confidence in the system. What is going on now? The suffering is that people will lose confidence in the system, confidence in the banking system, and that itself will override any potential benefit of implementing the redesigned currency policy.
Professor Akpan Ekpa, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much. We know we will be talking to you in the future, as we, of course, know that the matter is still before the court. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
We head to Ogun State, where the governor, Dapo Abiodun, has asked young people to shun all forms of violence as activities build up towards the presidential and National Assembly elections. He made the call against the backdrop of the forthcoming elections, the challenges occasioned by the scarcity of fuel and currencies, its attendant hardships to Nigerians. The governor is calling on the youth to make themselves readily available to different programs, initiative of the government to develop themselves and become employers of labour for socio-economic development of the state.
As we prepare for elections are just about 8 days away. It's important for us to continue to comport ourselves in that same Omoluabi style that we are all known for. We must not forget that we are the most peaceful state in Nigeria, and that peace must continue even towards this election. Our parents should not allow their children to be used as thugs. The children should take their PVCs and go and vote, of course, for the party of their choice, which I do not have a doubt that is APC.
In the meantime, the Nigeria Police has organized a 5-day workshop for 100 officers in Kwara State to equip them for the election. The officers are expected to be neutral and not biased, as well as maintain law and order during the polls.
Yeah, the program on the capacity training of Nigerian police by next week, election is coming, so that's why they have to train them about going about the election rule and whatever is going to be happening. So that's why we're here. They should play their role as a Nigerian citizen. Everybody is friend to the police, so no intimidate our opponents or another something else. So everybody has to be, the police is a friend to everybody.
Let's head back to our top story of the PDP's presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, who has been meeting with prominent citizens of Rivers party supporters to ensure victory at the forthcoming polls. The party leaders say the meeting is compensation for the state rally, which was aborted for fear of insecurity.
Our campaign, and indeed the PDP, subscribe fully to the position that no political ambition is worth the blood of any Nigerian or our party member. Clearly, events on the ground in Rivers State and this gathering here at the instance of our Rivers PDP family confirms the historic relationship between me and the Rivers people. Although we did not wish for this, it became expedient that we think and act innovatively to protect the lives of our people from the mindless violence and bloodshed instigated by the very persons who have the primary responsibility for their security and well-being. Rivers State and Rivers people are bound by destiny to be critical stakeholders and beneficiaries of the Atiku Okowa presidency in multiple ways. Let me therefore reassure Rivers people that the state will regain its preeminent position in the governance and politics of Nigeria.
Well, let's delve in quickly to the legal fireworks, and this is as a result of the currency swap issues. Mr. Mitchell Agatishe is a legal practitioner. He joins me virtually. Thanks, Mitchell. We just have quite a short time to talk about this, but then talk to us. What do you make of the about 10 states asking for the president's directive to be set aside by the courts? What do you think will happen? I mean, will the court grant that?
Thank you very much, Millicent. And it's an interesting time to be a Nigerian, I would say. And I don't say that positively. It is, I would say, unprecedented to have this kind of situation wherein, you basically have, to borrow your terminology, legal fireworks between the states as well as the federal government at this grand scale and for reasons that are currently being bandied about. This is a matter for the preserve of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, and to basically comment on what way they would go, one has to be careful, such as not to be sub judice. That being said, I think it's just very important to lay out some important facts. Number one is the fact that monetary policy, and that is really the scope in respect of which the CBN has said that they have pursued this, is statutorily within the purview of the CBN. That being said, there are a plethora of reasons why the state governments have advocated this. And when you also judge the public mood, the public tension, you can see that, there is also some significant support on both sides of the spectrum. There are those who support the state governments who are pushing for this, but also on the other side, there are those who feel that this is targeted at vote buying and are pushing for that. I think the critical thing that the Supreme Court at this point in time needs to take on board is that they should not fall into the political terrain, right, in reaching their decision. And this is also in line with the long line of case law, which always asks that the Supreme Court should, basically steer clear of, infringing, should I say, on the statutorily or constitutionally guaranteed aspects of separation of powers that reside within the executive as well as agents of the executive. So really and truly, I think it's for us all to wait to see how the Supreme Court will swing the pendulum in respect of which it will. And at the end of it all, right, I would hope that we come through this process knowing that, look, we still have a Supreme Court that people have confidence in. And I think that is important, not just for the general public, but also for legal practitioners as well.
Mitchell, many thanks. We'll be talking to you in the days to come leading to the elections. We appreciate your time always. Thanks a lot. Mitchell Agatashe is a legal practitioner. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Millicent. Much appreciated.
Well, let's take you to more political stories from across the state. So this time, Cross River State, the governorship candidate for the All Progressives Congress, has received endorsement from sons and daughters in the state's Central Senatorial District for the coming election. Senator Basio received the endorsement from both traditional heads, two APC candidates who had contested same position during last governorship primaries. Speaking at a rally where hundreds of former members of the opposition People's Democratic Party defected to the APC, Professor Ben Ayade urged the people to vote for the APC from top to bottom to reciprocate his achievements across the state. Elsewhere, the deputy national leader of the People's Democratic Party, Timothy Osadolo, has called on Edo youths to back former Vice President Atiku Abubakar's presidential bid come Saturday because he says his manifesto represents the best prospects for the younger generation. The Edo PDP youth leader was addressing members at a town hall in the state capital, where he listed $10 billion credit facility for small-scale businesses, 55% slots for youths in the cabinet, among other benefits if Mr. Abubakar is elected president. Well, you've been served on Lunchtime Politics. It's a sprint towards the finish line for 18 political parties. Don't forget, you can join the buzz on our social media platforms as showing on your screen. I'm Millicent Walker. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.